Good morning, Galaxians. Welcome to another live edition of the Galaxy CDs, Rocks, and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. I feel terrible. The last time we were here all together, I believe I made mention of trying to get back on maybe a weekly schedule on these lives, and here we are 3 weeks later, and I'm finally getting around to doing another one. The good news is that's because I've been super busy. Hopefully your business has picked up as we've entered into Q4. It has been crazy here every day, pretty much. Orders significantly up for the month so far, and some really nice hits as well. Some big, for me, big dollar stuff getting out of here. So it's been really, really good. But between that and everything else going on, I just haven't been able to get back here. So my apologies for it haven't been a couple of weeks. Welcome. Let me say a couple of good mornings here. Lindy Moo, if it'll show up on the screen. There we go. Good morning from Southern California. Good morning from chilly Ohio. Lord Jake Ryan, always good to see you. Thanks for coming out. Someone asked a couple of weeks ago, you may recall back in, I don't know if it was late spring, early summer, I did the big buy, 10,000 odd books over a couple of big estate buyouts, and it had essentially filled my garage. And someone asked the last time we were here if I was back in my garage yet. The answer at that time was no. The answer as of this past weekend is yes. I am finally able to get my vehicle back in the garage. So that is a good thing, just as it starts to get cold-ish here in southwestern Ohio. So pretty pleased with that. I am making pretty good progress on those big lots. It has not been, frankly, as good as I had anticipated. There's been a lot of really inexpensive stuff in them. I have, as I talked about when I did that buy, we took the good stuff out first, which put it kind of in the back of where I was storing things. So I'm just kind of now getting into some of the better stuff. But the first, 5,000 books, it's not been fantastic. Not terrible. And like I say, pretty regularly, I don't mind selling, the $4 or $5 books plus shipping. It adds up in volume and it's okay, but it's a lot of work to go through all that and not come up with some stuff that was a little more fun. So hopefully this next couple of weeks worth of listings, now that I'm kind of back to the end of that stuff and getting into the better stuff, will be a little more fun. Dendigore Depot, welcome. Good morning. Offers were broken this morning on eBay, but it seems like it's fixed. Yes, the Q4 hose is definitely building. I've got actually a news clip here to talk about in a minute. eBay has had a ton of glitches recently. This morning, I was over at my warehouse and was getting a network error when trying to get into my solds. So I had to go back to like the notifications to find the items and then pull them up individually. So eBay's on the struggle bus. Is that better? Still bad because it shows okay, right? That got it? Okay, perfect. I don't know why that does that because the mic should be on like all the time. Anyway, back to this. Yeah, so I had talked about a while ago, like stepping back a little bit, not only from this, but just from social media in general. And I've really kind of stuck to that. I've not been on Instagram a ton, not really been posting or kind of viewing what's going on over there. So I'm kind of out of the loop a little bit. So, but good to see you. Thanks for coming out. Let's see, we got probably a whole bunch. Propicio Sanchez, welcome. Good to see you. Yeah, sound. Screeching mic. That's always fun. That's so weird. And yes, that happens when I'm not on consistently. And when I tried to cheap out on the microphone, I got away from my like $1,000 setup. And now it's pretty sketchy. So good. My apologies for the technical issues. With all that out of the way, let's look at a little bit of reselling news.
News updates.
I will try to keep my eye on the chat, which is now way over here on this other screen. Winter seller check-in for eBay tomorrow. I will not be attending because, as I mentioned in the show notes down below, tomorrow is actually my 60th birthday, and I'm going to be over in a corner crying. No, not really. Not true. I'm actually not that pressed about 60, but I am going to be doing something other than attending the winter seller check-in. But it is tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern. If you are inclined to go, you can still confirm your spot. You probably got a notification from eBay on this. They're going to have some breakout sessions that will include seller advice on, of course, advertising for the holidays, managing staff during the holiday season if you're something other than a solopreneur like myself and you actually have people on hand, holiday planning for all categories from fashion, collectibles, electronics, and more. And then they'll have some hosted networking sessions where you can swap ideas with other sellers, including things like building a strong brand presence, enhancing customer experience and handling returns, identifying reliable wholesale suppliers for your eBay store, and more. Don't miss these essential holiday tips. Let me know in the chat if you intend to go to the winter seller check-in and check any of this out. Obviously, they continue to make a big push for the advertising and the promoted listings schemes. There are still a couple of offers out there if you want to pursue those with some credits back to see how they work for you. I am still just doing the standard, whatever it is, promoted listings campaign. Still running something like 65% of my transactions are still currently coming from promoted listings. You may recall from back in the summer, there were some changes made to promoted listings attributions over in Europe that has not yet hit here in the US. So knock wood that doesn't, because that will cause probably a lot more fees for all of us. So that's kind of what's going on. Let me know again in the chat if you're doing anything different for Q4 in terms of listing or sourcing. We talked a little bit in the intro about glitches at eBay. There have been, over the last couple of weeks, all kinds of things. This article's over on Value Added Resource. The app has experienced network errors, which is what I was having this morning. Seller Hub summary traffic reports were unavailable or were just reporting no data at all. Last week, sellers continue to report. This was updated just this morning. Glitches across eBay app experiences, network error, Seller Hub summary, traffic reports not available. Latest round of technical problems actually began last Friday when eBay's shipping program was preventing sellers from purchasing USPS Ground Advantage labels. That's not the first time that's happened. It's weird that it's only ever Ground Advantage seemingly, but they had a problem there. My understanding is that they also had a problem earlier this week with labels generally when Amazon Web Services was down. As you may recall, they had a big outage the other day, and that affected the ability to print labels. I did not run into any issues with Pirate Ship, so I don't know if they're on a different server or if they're not using AWS, but I was able to ship everything without problems. Since then, sellers have been receiving "it's not you, it's us" error messages on the web. This morning, Seller Hub overview page is incorrectly displaying 0 views, sales, and orders with an error message that says some summary information is currently unavailable. I did not experience that. All of my summary stuff on my Seller Hub appeared to be correct this morning. So again, as is usually the case with eBay, a little hit or miss on that. Traffic page was completely missing all stats. eBay app having a problem, as I mentioned earlier. Could not get into my solds this morning to see what I needed to pull at the warehouse. Saw this lovely message numerous times. It was weird because you could get into that through kind of a back door, but if you clicked on the selling tab on mobile, you got this network error. So strange issues. Desktop glitches from last week: no item condition or AI description, missing frequency box for the new auto price reduction, many technical issues. One seller said could not revise listings, could not bulk upload listing creation from photos, can't send offers, as someone else just mentioned earlier. That was a problem. I sent some offers this morning from desktop without issue, so I don't know if that's been resolved. Notifications not working. I have had that on an ongoing basis for probably the last month, where on mobile I'm not getting notifications of sales or messages. So let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. I'm sure eBay is going to make some, wonderful announcements tomorrow about all this new tech that they're bringing in. But they still have, again, like basic functionality that is just not really working like it's supposed to. Let's hop back here into the chat and catch up. Happy birthday. Thank you. I appreciate that. Right. 39th time I'm celebrating my 21st. I like that. My son forgot my 60th. 7 years later, he's still hearing about it. I bet that's right. TRB Collectibles says, had a first for the business, bought out someone's store for the first time, picked up 4,000 Kino Lorber Criterion Archive Collection DVDs, new and sealed. That is awesome. I know those Criterion Collection DVDs are gold. They can be really, really good. We've talked about probably on 2 or 3 occasions over the last year or so, how there is a kind of an upsurge in, Media Picker can speak to this, in customers looking for and purchasing physical media. That is definitely on a comeback. So if you are inclined to be a media seller, it's on the move and it's moving in the right direction. Jeff Zenik, welcome. Media Picker, done sourcing for the year, have too much stuff to list. Listing more, hitting 60 to 80 a week, and still up 20% compared to last year. I looked at mine this morning, and I'm up like 2%. So there was a period there kind of through the summer where things were a little bit flat. My transaction volume is way up, but my average ticket is down a bit, simply because I've been listing so much of that cheap stuff from that big buy. TRB Collectibles says the glitch this morning was annoying, was in the middle of my scheduled listings and the notifications were all over the place. Den Decor says, used to do a deeper discount sale, staying the course with 10% across the board on markdown, still promoting at 11% under 20 and 7 over 20. I'm still running my normal kind of monthly clearance. This month I'm pretty aggressive. I think my top tier is like 55% on the really old stuff. But I've moved quite a bit of it, so that's good. Making some room on the shelves for all of this stuff that's still in my garage. Den Decor says, media has been very good. Propuccio Sanchez sold 2 VHS tapes from my PC for $50 a piece this week. Very nice. They were just collecting dust on my shelf for years. Yeah, there is, we've talked about before, especially in horror, there's a big demand for old VHS. So that's one of those things kind of still to be on the lookout for as you're out, maybe still sourcing. do a couple of more quick news things here. This is an interesting one. So Poshmark has lost another of their co-founders. Senior Vice President of the Seller Experience, Tracy Sun, has announced that she is leaving the company. This executive shakeup continues as another one bites the dust. After 15 years at the company, she posted an announcement of her departure over on LinkedIn. This article again over on Value Added Resource. Closing one chapter, opening another with gratitude, pride, and a full heart, she said. After more than a decade helping build Poshmark from an idea into a thriving community and business, I am beginning a new chapter, she said. When we started Poshmark, I couldn't have imagined the scale of what we would build or the joy of doing it alongside my amazing co-founders, Manish, Gautam, and Chetan. Together, we turned a simple idea into a global platform that empowers millions of people to express themselves. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but suffice to say that she is now leaving. This news has followed on co-founder and Senior Vice President of Engineering, Chetan Pangalaya's departure in March, and co-founder and CEO Manish Chandra stepping down in September, naming Naver President of Investments Namsun Kim as his successor. Interestingly, this leaves only one of the original co-founders, Chief Technology Officer Gautam Galwala, still at the company. So they have been saying all the right things in these announcements. We opined on this show back when Poshmark was acquired and taken private by Naver that I would expect that there would be leadership changes over the course of time as they transitioned and the new owners wanted to implement their own things. And now it's come to pass that 3 of the 4 original founders and senior members over at Poshmark have elected to leave. What this bodes for the future is a little unclear at this point. Let me know in the chat or in the comments down below if you're on Team Replay what you think about all these folks bailing out of Poshmark. Last bit of news for Amazon sellers. Amazon's making a change coming next year in the spring. They're going to begin delaying payouts with a controversial DD+7 policy. This is kind of an interesting one. Next year, sellers will have to wait much longer to get funds from their sales on Amazon, beginning on March 12th, 2026. In addition to all the other stuff going on with Amazon and changing fees and how much you can send to FBA and all the rest of it, sellers will have a standard reserve period of 7 days after delivery date. Quote, moving your reserve setting to DD+7, delivery date +7, provides time for you to accrue fees and other costs before disbursement and gives your customers time to receive, open, and evaluate their order, Amazon told sellers. But some of those responding to the news were skeptical that the move was anything but a way for Amazon to have time to earn more interest on sellers' funds. They gave an example of how this would work. For example, if you sell a product on January 1st and it's delivered on January 3rd, then under DD+7 policy, your funds for that order will become available for disbursement on January 11th. So instead of those funds being available on whatever terms they were before, I assume it was immediate, it's now going to be the delivery date +7. Some sellers did note that they sell things that don't require tracking. How will Amazon know what the delivery date was for those items? Amazon has been either unable or unwilling to answer those questions. This is not, again, coming until next March. Amazon has in the past, to their credit, responded to seller pushback on these kind of things with that kind of a rollout time and changed their mind. So if this is one of those things that you think is a bad idea, make sure you reach out to Amazon and let them know, because having to wait additional time could be problematic for your cash flow. Obviously, some sites already do that, like Mercari is a 3-day wait after delivery, unless the customer leaves you a review, at which point your funds are released. So it's not unheard of that there is some sort of a gap between delivery date and the release of your funds. But as far as I can tell, this is the first time that's been the case with Amazon, and that's a big one. 7 days is a long time. TRB Collectible says, absolutely, my business was just DVD, Blu-ray, but now VHS and CDs are 35% of the business, and it flies off the shelves. That's awesome. I am still You may remember, I don't know, gosh, it's probably 5 years ago now, I bought 8,000 odd CDs, and I am still almost every day selling one or two out of that. They're all the big money kind of high value stuff is already gone, so it's a lot of kind of mediocre stuff. But I'm still selling stuff out of those lots on a daily basis, and would probably look at making another buy like that, a store buyout like you just talked about, where I could come up with a big collection of Blu-rays or CDs, if they were the right genre, particularly on CDs. Papuccio Sanchez, I stopped putting effort into Posh and just been focusing on eBay. It wasn't worth my time any longer. Again, a lot of people have talked about that, particularly more in line with Mercari, although I have seen anecdotally, some of those folks have now come back as Mercari seems to be starting to pick back up and really putting forth some effort with coupons and offers and return and exchange updates. Full credit to Mercari. Interestingly, after the Japanese CEO took over the American wing, you saw a big upsurge in the things that Mercari was trying to do to attract not only sellers but buyers, and it seems to be having an effect. Be interesting to see now with Poshmark if that starts to go the other way as they kind of lose that core group of founders to something else. And they have all been pretty tight-lipped about what they're doing. I'd be curious if anybody knows. Also disengaged from Mercari and Depop, eBay all the way, occasional Whatnot streams. I've not been on Whatnot in months. I think about popping back on there every now and then, but my personal experience was that I just wasn't getting enough out of it for the time I was investing. So I am Etsy, eBay, and Mercari at this point. TRB Collectibles remembers that buy. Yes, I still have pictures of that somewhere. Back in the Hot Wheel Cave days, yes, that is still over there. I am occasionally over there. I almost decided to do that today, just be over there and do some listings, but there was a couple of news items that I thought were worth talking about. So here we are in the main studio. Jeff Zenik says, I've been having eBay troubles while listing. Photos aren't visible after I download them while I'm listing. Had to go back and check them. That has been on and off for a week now. I had some issues earlier in the week where when I looked up, went to just my listings, this was on mobile, none of them were showing photos. If I clicked on the individual listing, the photo was there, but it wasn't showing the thumbnail. Again, just one of those random glitches. It's a display error happening for some people, not for others. I know people were having issues a few weeks ago where it wasn't uploading pictures properly at all. I don't know. I hate to be this way, but you wouldn't think this stuff would be that hard. Trail Chapters asks, do I use a cross-listing app? I do. I use List Perfectly. They're a shameless plug. There is an affiliate link in the video description down below. If you'd like to try that service, if you use that link and the code 634, you can save 30% off your first month of whatever tier you try. It has most of the major selling platforms on it. So from wherever you are, you can either upload information directly to List Perfectly's inventory management system and then disperse it from there, where it has an auto delist feature. I don't use it that way, but you can cross-list to Poshmark, Facebook Marketplace, Depop, Etsy, eBay. They now have Whatnot in beta, which is interesting. So they're adding new categories. So there's a whole bunch there. And I've done a couple of videos on it in the past where my workflow is I will generally start on eBay and I'll do 10 or 12 listings. I start on eBay because that's where I can input the most photos. Once I've reached 10, 12, 15, then I'll hop on the PC, open up those listings within eBay, select them using List Perfectly, select where I want those listings to go, either Etsy or Mercari or both, and then cross-list them. You do still have to do a bit of manual input, but it will pull your title, your photos, your description, and some of the basic things, including your pricing. In Etsy, it actually pulls now size and weight as well. So it only takes a few minutes after my main listings are done to get into List Perfectly and populate those to the other platforms. So I'm on the business plan. I think it's $49 a month, and I usually recoup that in the first couple of days of the month, particularly on Etsy. I'm doing very, very well on Etsy. So hope that helps. If you have any other questions, let me know in the chat. Pixeltail, welcome. Rainy day here in Michigan. eBay phone app also having issues. Curious if you are on Android or iOS. I'm an Android person and I was having problems this morning. And it does seem to run sometimes in OS order. Sometimes iOS has problems. Android is fine. Sometimes it's the other way around. So I'd be curious which platform you're on. TRB Collectibles, do enjoy. I can now upload vids via the mobile app. How many people do video with their listings? I have not. There were a few that I would do that for when I was listing like print-on-demand stuff, t-shirts and whatnot over on Etsy. But I have not listed any, I haven't shown any videos on eBay in particular. I'd be curious how many people are doing it. How do you decide which listings you want to do it for or not? Is it high dollar items you'll go ahead and do a video for, or something particularly interesting? Let me know in the chat. I'm always curious what people are doing with that functionality because I've not used it at all. Then Decor Depot says, I'm looking at joining Posh. The cross lister I'm using has basically 2-click add, and I've been hammering cross listing. Nifty AI, I know a lot of people that use that one. A lot of Posh sellers seem to really like Nifty. So Trail Chapters, yeah, I was initially cross listing manually because I was only doing it to Mercari, and even that got to be too cumbersome for me as I was doing. If you've been following along here for long at all, you know I do anywhere from 120 to sometimes almost as many as 200 listings a week, and manually cross-posting that many, even if it's only to one platform, is super time-consuming. So the automating it through, whether it be List Perfectly, Nifty, Vendoo, whatever flavor of cross-listing program works for you, it is a huge time saver. Denticor says it also automates the sharing and automates delist, relist. Colorado Rewarn posted something the other day about the default search results in Poshmark had changed, and she was curious about whether that was going to impact the necessity of sharing over on Poshmark, which has been a big... It's been one of the big things for Poshmark, is that you've got to share your stuff consistently to show up in the search results. And with this change now to relevance based on your search terms, she was asking the question, how much does your sharing now impact your ability to show up in search? Does anybody have any thoughts on that? And how often do you share? And again, that's one of those things, if you can automate that, you're in a much better place, because that is a super time consuming thing to do if you've got a closet of any size. iOS, so it's across the board, iOS and Android. TRB Collectible says, I do electronics to prove that it functions and works. Perfect. Yes. I will usually take pictures of, like, you know, the screen lit up or whatever, but I haven't listed any electronics in probably over a year. But that would be a very good use for that. Only use video for electronics or things that people need to see function. Very good. Makes sense. With List Perfectly, can you cross-list to whatnot? That is in beta. I haven't looked into it, so I don't know, because whatnot, of course, has your live selling, and they also do have fixed listings. I don't know if the List Perfectly allows you to pick which of those you're doing, or if it's strictly to just move that thing into your whatnot inventory, and then you have to go into whatnot and either assign it to a show or whatever. Again, I haven't been selling on whatnot since back in the spring, but I know that it is now showing up on my screen on List Perfectly as a beta option. So that would be huge, because I know a lot of sellers are really, really active over on Whatnot. Like having a cross lister, use Vindu. There you go. For comfort, knowing my listings are backed up and I cross list in a jiffy in case something happens to my eBay account. Yep, it's always good to have that secondary place where all your information is stored. It is, like most things, tech, you see anecdotally reports of people saying that things that were supposed to get automatically delisted did not. So there's still kind of a level of manual like verification and work that you probably need to do. I would not trust it. I don't trust List Perfectly 100% either. But you need to kind of manually verify that things are working like they're supposed to. Because again, you don't want to end up in a position where you sell something on eBay today and it doesn't automatically get deleted and then somebody tries to buy it on Poshmark tomorrow or vice versa. So Mary says that would be amazing. I share like every hour if I can, and I don't use a bot. Luckily, you can share the whole closet with one tap. Mercari is set it and forget it. Yes. Mercari, again, to go back to them, they have made a bunch of changes in terms of being able to send offers and run promotions. Very, very aggressive stuff over there. So again, hat tip, kudos to Mercari for really trying to get things moving in the right direction. What are you doing for a Black Friday, Cyber Monday promo? I'm not, actually. And I've talked about that in years past. Personally, my business is better in January than it is during the actual selling season because most of what I do is like vintage books, and it can be very difficult to say, gosh, I wonder if grandma has this old Thomas Hardy book from 1908. So there's a lot of those folks that end up with gift cards that then make their own selections after the holidays. So I rarely do any kind of special promotions for those weekends and really through Q4. eBay recently sent out, notice they're running another big promotion. I did one back in the spring that did not work at all, so I won't be participating in that either. Let us know in the chat if you are doing anything special for either Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or for Q4 in terms of running either special pricing, special promotions, or anything like that. Use Vendu for Whatnot. They've had it available for a while now, which is probably why Whatnot has decided to get on board. They're pretty, these companies, they all watch what the other ones are doing. You don't want to be left behind. You don't want your competitor to be offering a service or connecting with a vendor that you're not using. So obviously they're all going to gravitate towards the same thing. Miss Lachey, welcome. Never too late. Always good to see you. Welcome. Is there anything else on your mind today? Again, let me know what cross-listing programs you do use. What offers are you planning on doing for the holidays? I'm always interested what other folks are doing. It's one of the reasons we do these shows so that you can kind of pick each other's brains, not just listen to me ramble, but get ideas from each other on things that you may be able to implement or to customize and implement into your business, to hear how others are doing on various sites, which programs they use for various things, like for instance, cross-listing, so that you can become more familiar with which ones do what things and how happy people are with the ones that they're using. Etsy was offering some kind of promo if you're doing 25%, just starting the course with 10% for the red ink. Yeah, Etsy's got a couple of things going on. They were running a promotion. I don't remember seeing a notification for it, but I do remember seeing a news article, I think on Value Added Resource a couple of weeks ago, that they were quietly offering either discounts or so many free internal ad promotions on Etsy. It did not account for offsite ads, but you could advertise items on Etsy internally and receive some kind of credit or so many free. So again, they're trying to do some things. Etsy is super aggressive in how much they want you to discount stuff to participate in their programs. I personally, like when I'm currently running 10% off on Etsy, which is as much as I like to do because there's no easy way to specify which things I want to discount and which I don't. I generally don't want to discount my brand new listings, but there's no like bulk way to do that. So I just do like a blanket 10%. But when you go in to set up your promotion, I think the minimum discount is either 20 or 25%. If you want to do less than that, you have to select custom, and then you get a pop-up that says, we recommend doing whatever. Well, of course you do. It's not your money. But it's been interesting to see when those promotions work and don't. Some months I do really well on Etsy without running any discounts at all. Other months, if I don't run at least a 10% off, Etsy slows way down for me. So Denzicor says USPS has been slower, but a bit more reliable, but man, it is expensive. Yes. I think I mentioned it the last time we were here, but they did announce at least that come January, there will be no price increase for Ground Advantage. So once this Q4 surcharge goes away in January, we'll revert back to the prices that were there before, which are still high, to be fair. But they'll be a little more in line. I've noticed with the old pricing that was in effect before earlier this month, there were certain sizes and weights where Ground Advantage could still be cheaper than Media Mail, 4 ounces and under, or even some of the heavier packages, depending on where they were going. Ground Advantage could be cheaper. That has pretty much completely gone away. Media Picker, if you're still here, you can comment on that as well, because it has gotten super, super expensive. I have had 2 issues with the post office in the last probably 3 or 4 months. I had one box that, interestingly, it was on its way to Colorado. It got as far as Minnesota. Then the next scan was in Washington, D.C., where it was being evaluated for a postal discrepancy, which I found really interesting because it was something I had sent Ground Advantage. It was a box of books that Ground Advantage was actually cheaper on. They shipped right before the price increase went into effect. They sat in DC for a couple of days. Apparently, the price was fine because they then forwarded them on. Customer got them and left me positive feedback because of the communication. We were talking back and forth. I was updating her every day on the tracking and on the updates. I didn't get a bill for any problem with the postage. Normally, my experience has been that the Postal Service just goes ahead and forwards that if there's a problem, and I get, again, I use Pirate Ship. I'll get a notice in Pirate Ship that I have been charged additional postage for an item that was in the wrong package or that they declared was the wrong size or weight. Almost always it's been an error on the post office's end, and I've appealed that decision and been found to be correct and refunded the money. So this was kind of a weird one, that it went essentially clear back across the country to be evaluated and then was forwarded on, and there was never any update on it. I never did get notified. I found it kind of on my own that that's what was going on. So Big Dre Graphic Tees, welcome. Good to see you. Miss Lachey, anyone have any luck sending private coupons? I will chime in on that. I have run coupons on eBay probably half a dozen times and never had a taker. I am currently on Etsy. Etsy has 3 kind of automated coupon offers, one for a like, one for an abandoned cart, and one for a kind of a thank you for someone who's made a purchase. I'm using all 3 of those, offering 10% off any additional purchase, or to just make a purchase if they abandon their cart. In the last 30 days, Etsy has sent out nearly 200 emails on my behalf, and I have made exactly 0 sales on those offers. It's like a lot of marketing. You really got to put a lot of it out there to get a very small result. It's like, running ads on Facebook Marketplace or using eBay's ad program or the promoted listings. You'll see that you're getting hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of clicks, and your closing ratio on those is typically well less than 3%. So I will continue to use coupons from time to time, but I don't rely on them to generate really much business for me. I do it kind of just as a reminder notice to customers, hey, I'm still here, come back, check out the store, see what might be new that you might be interested in. But I've not personally had any luck with personal coupons. Discounting, just flat discounting. And that goes, to go back to the eBay promotion that I ran back in the spring. That was eBay's thing. It was like 20% off. It was shown on the eBay listing as a coupon, and there was a code that was attached to it. And that promotion did nothing for me. As you'll recall, I did a couple of videos on that. That promotion was crickets. But if I run just a flat 15, 20, 25, 35% discount on items, and that discount is automatically reflected in the price on eBay, I sell dozens of items a week that way. So personally, I've found it more effective to just give a blanket discount based on price and age of inventory than to run coupons. Den Decor says 4-ounce DVDs are all media mail for me now. Yep, that's been my experience as well. Maybe if I had something in zone 1, I might eke out a ground advantage, but it seems like everything is media mail, at least until January now. TRB asks, can anyone recommend good envelopes for eBay standard envelopes for shipping postcards? Picked up a couple over the weekend and beginning to dabble in it. I don't have any advice on that, but if anybody does, let us know in the chat. Media Picker used to ship out some with ground advantage, but since the increase, shipping out 95% media mail. Yeah, still ship out a few ground advantage depending on the item value if I'm not losing too much on the cost. Yeah, because you got to remember, with the ground advantage, you are getting $100 free insurance. Free, I mean, nothing's free. It's baked into the price. But rather than shipping it media mail and paying whatever it is, 80 cents or $1 per 100, to then add additional insurance, just shipping it by ground advantage and getting that $100 worth of insurance can make sense on a more expensive item. Den Decor on the envelope question, number 10 envelopes for eBay standard envelope, sandwich with my 8.5 by 11 packing slip and more, print the label right on my Canon laser printer. There you go. Right on the envelope, yes. Coupons are big on Etsy. See, I don't think I've run, like, other than those automated ones and my like normal, just where I do a blanket discount, I don't think I've run any like specific coupons on Etsy. Maybe that's something I'll have to look into. Again, I'm selling vintage books on Etsy, which is not really their wheelhouse. I do reasonably well over there, but it's not necessarily what people are going there for, so I'm not sure how coupons would work there, but that might be something I have to give a try next month. Pixel Tail says, ground advantage no longer competitive with media mail. Still go GA for the insurance on the more valuable items. There you go. And again, whenever that expires, the holiday surcharge in January, that will flip back. So remember to go back and double check once we get there. Miss Lachey says, I've tried 20% off coupons to previous buyers who left positive feedback, and it was crickets. Yep. Media Picker, slightly different topic. People using the JFJ Easy Pro cleaning discs using car wax gets out most of the scratches, including deeper ones, while putting very little wear on the cleaning pad. There you go. If you are a user of that device to resurface media, that's a good tip. Is there a particular type of wax that you have found works better than others? And I assume it's cheaper as well than the actual JFJ bottles of whatever that stuff is. 1 in 10. Am I back? I've been looking at is it back? Okay. Sorry about that. As I was starting to say, I've been looking at another microphone that hopefully will resolve this issue that's wired. This should not be doing that, but you know how it goes. Yes, this is a new segment to see how many people will stick around. TRB says McGuire's Ultimate Compound. There you go. Hopefully that took care of it. Good conversation with myself. I do that, actually, anyway, sitting down here in the basement. Jeff Zennick says, I only occasionally ship postcards, have a lot of invitation-type envelopes, so I cut a quarter off one and tape it to another after making a cut, and postcard fit in just fine. There you go. There you go. What's the most interesting thing you've sold this week? I'm packing a printing press block that was used by the League of Women Voters for their newsletter. That is very cool. My most interesting one for the week has been, wow, there you go. DVD for $3 and sold it for $1,000. I would take that all the time. Yeah, that's a good one. Mine, I bought probably just over a year ago. I found at an estate sale in a box some bound magazines. I talk about bound magazines from time to time, from the 1940s, the 1960s, and the 1970s Sport magazine. This person had these custom bound. They were, I don't know, there were probably 10 or 12 of them in a box for $1 a piece. So I bought them all. Nobody had anything like it. So I had listed them all fairly high, anywhere from like $129 to $199. Kind of been waiting around, and I finally had somebody that found them and started making offers on all of them. I've sold over the last week, I think 8 or 9 of these full year editions bound sport magazines for anywhere from $89 to $129 a piece. I was into them for $1. So I've done about $800 in sales for $8 of investment. So I was feeling pretty stoked about that. They took a while to sell, but they were good. Media Picker says any car wax should be fine. The stuff I have is from my aunt through 3M. I did want to try some Maguires, but and tried turtle wax. There you go. Yeah. Maguire smells so good. I use it on my truck. And I know that's crazy loud too, because I went back and watched, the last time this happened, I went back and watched the video. Whew. It comes on full blast. Yeah, there were a bunch of messages in there. Remember when I got all those train magazines? I am still actually, believe it or not, selling through those a year at a time here and there. That was a terrific buy. That was, for those of you who may not have been around at the time, that was one of my, I think probably my first big bulk buy. I was on, I don't know if it was Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. I found a listing for what was essentially a lifetime collection of model railroad magazines, Model Railroader, that went back to the 1930s. The person had passed and had left them to their grandson, who was not into model railroading, and he didn't want them. And I traveled up to Richmond, Indiana to look at these in a storage unit. They were incredibly well organized. They were by year, in binders, not bound, but in like holders, all in Rubbermaid totes. And I was kind of just trying to decide what I wanted to do. I figured they were probably worth anywhere from $15 to $30 per year. plus shipping. So while I'm formulating in my head how much I want to pay for these, the kids, I assume it was his father or his uncle, said, you know, I don't know what you're thinking, but if you would give us $10 per Rubbermaid tub, they're yours. And I'm thinking in my head, the Rubbermaid tubs themselves are probably worth the $10. Each of these tubs had probably between 8 and 10 years worth of these model railroad magazines in them. So you're looking at hundreds of dollars per tub on these. And they were already organized by year. I didn't have to sort them. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to take the thing out, take pictures of all 12, do the listing. And that's when I really started looking for big bulk buys. That was a outstanding buy. I'd hate to think how much money I made on those. Jeff Zennick said it was 2 weeks ago, sold 10 drawings of the new set of NASA astronauts, one of which might be the first person to walk on Mars. Didn't make any good money off of them though. I did really well. I got, my brother runs a warehouse, and one of his tenants had some personal stuff stored there. I've told this story before. He passed away. The family didn't want to mess with the stuff. So essentially we were selling it off to get it out of his warehouse. And this guy was a big NASA buff from, say, mid-1950s up through like the shuttle program. So there were like newsletters from, you know, the NASA facilities in Alabama, all kinds of pictures from the moon landings, like NASA authorized prints from the moon landing, from Skylab, just a ton of stuff. And I did super, super well with those. So that, I'm surprised you didn't make good money on those, because I made a killing. Obviously, more contemporary stuff is probably a little less appealing than stuff from that area, but man, that was awesome. Love getting the Rubbermaid tubs when I do bulk buys. Yeah, I will never have to buy a Rubbermaid tub. I have got dozens of them. TRB Collectibles says, thought of your train buy when I did my DVD buy. Thank you for that guidance on those all those years ago. There you go. Hey, glad to be of a help. Getting close to noon out here. Time to sell. Good seeing everyone. As always, again, thank you so much for coming by. I know it's been a couple of weeks. I appreciate that you guys come out when I do manage to get here and do these. And as always, that you share your ideas and your thoughts with each other. Hopefully you got something out of this today. If you did, other than going deaf from the static, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Until next time, my friends, it's time to sell. Thanks, guys.